People age 30 and up, whatever happened to your high school boyfriend, girlfriend, or secret crush? Story 1. Well, it looks like it's my time to shine, but not in such a good way. Always had a crush on this guy I knew for a good deal of my life, but nothing really came of it in high school. On to college, we attended the same college and started to date after our freshman year. He is an unbelievable person who treats me so well. All of my friends are jealous of me. He was on the 5-year plan. I was on the 4th because he liked to party. I graduated, we stayed together. I moved about 5 hours for work, and he got into some alcohol-related trouble at school. My mother was pressuring me to break up with him because of his immaturity and that I would not be happy being with someone like him for the rest of my life. I had told her on multiple occasions that he is the one. He finally got suspended from school and he moved back to our hometown and was living back with his parents. Just not really doing much, but still partying, so I broke up with him. I made a clean break and never spoke with him again. He would call me daily, write letters, send flowers, but I would not respond. He started a business about a year later. I knew he would be successful, you could just see it in him. He found someone else about 2 years after we broke up. They are married and his business has grown ever since. He also quit drinking about 3 years ago and made his business really grow. And this guy I am talking about has a private jet loaded. He lives in the same neighborhood as my parents, and I see him when I am home sometimes and have said hi to him, and I hear from people, my parents included, about how great of a person he is and all this stuff he does for charities and the community in general. So yeah, I got that going for me. Too long didn't read, dumped a millionaire because I thought his life was not on the right track. Well, to be fair, maybe you dumping him was the catalyst behind his success. If you had stuck with him, he wouldn't have become a multimillionaire. I was literally about to say the same thing as that commenter. Things may have been really different. He may have just kept partying and drug you down with him. It's possible you two just weren't good for each other, but that doesn't make either of you bad people. Story 2. I had 3 girlfriends during high school. Number 1 was entirely long distance. She lived about 80 miles away, and we never did meet up until after I had graduated high school. She met another man online from Georgia right after that, and on the day she turned 18, she skipped school to get married to him. The last time I ever spoke to her, she was still married and raising a child with him. We haven't spoken in 8 years. Number 2 was living in a group home when we met. We dated for maybe 3 months tops. She was my first kiss, and she took my virginity also. Likewise, when she turned 18, she chose to drop out of high school and leave the group home. She popped up about a year later in the town where I was going to community college. We hung out once, and she fell off the air again. She popped up after that hitchhiking in Arizona. She got in touch with me on Yahoo Messenger. Thereafter, we lost touch again, and I haven't spoken to her since. Number 3 was during my last semester of my senior year. We stayed in touch for about 3 years or so after I graduated, occasionally hanging out. She joined the Army at one point and ended up medically discharged, training accident, I think. We hung out once she got back from her base in Louisiana and eventually stopped talking to each other. I saw her brother 2 years ago, and she apparently moved to Kansas City at some point, got married, and had a kid. Story 3. I wasn't out at all in high school back in the 80s, and neither was anyone else. There was one guy who I thought might be gay. He was handsome and kind and was always nice to me, even though I was too shy to really talk to him. I never got up the courage to find out if he was gay too. I always regretted that, and over the years convinced myself that I had missed a great opportunity. I looked him up a couple of years ago. He's the very beloved police chief of a small town married with children. He's heavily involved in substantial charity work and has been honored several times. So I learned I've got good taste, and that sometimes just crushing on someone in silence is actually the best option. He could still be gay, though. I can sympathize. In my high school in the late 90s and early 2000s, there were like 2 people who I knew about that were out. Thanks to it being a town and not a city. It sucks because honestly, I probably would have had a much easier time realizing I was pan if I had more guys hitting on me back then. As it stands, the one that I kissed when I dared him to kiss me should have probably been an indicator. Story 4. My biggest school crush grew up to become a coke and H junkie and have 4 kids with 4 different guys. To be somewhat fair, she had a rough upbringing even when we were together briefly in our teens. Somehow she's still hot as frick though. A good number of years ago, she had hit me up on MySpace back then, and we started flirting. She sent me nudes. Body was banging. Went to meet up with her at the place she worked at the time. She took a break, immediately went in to ask if I knew any guys I could score blow from, and eventually went in to complain about her sister criticizing her for having coke in the house around her kids. I don't know what gave her the impression that I was down for doing blow and that sort of household scenario, but I pieced the frick out fast. Story 5. We were friends in high school, and after we graduated, we moved our separate ways. For a long time, I didn't know what I wanted to be for a career, so I explored around America with the money I saved up from working at fast food places. One of the last places I went was a small town in New York. I went to a restaurant and recognized my crush as she was my waiter. We then began to talk. I told her what I was doing, and she asked if I had a place to stay for the night. I then told her no, but I did. Then I got a job with her at the restaurant, and soon after we saved up and went to college for this business. A few years later, we were working there with a good income, a nice house, and 3 loving kids. And of course, married. Yay! I love when these surprise happy stories work their way into these threads. Good for you two, and I hope you have a great life together. Story 6. Went to college in a different state, did military ROTC, is an officer in the military, got married, had his master's, and from the couple of times I've talked with him, seems extremely happy. I, on the other hand, have more or less been in a constant state of depression since high school over it. Well, to be more accurate, it was the triggering event that started my depression. I am over him, more or less. Don't measure your own happiness against his. Besides, I'm sure he has his own demons that you don't know about. It's easy to think that everyone else appears perfectly happy because that's what everyone's inclined to make people believe about them. Story 7. My very first crush came to our small-town school suddenly as a child of divorce. Then, just a month or 2 later, he was gone. I went so far as to sneak into the office and look for his file, but it didn't exist. If my other friends didn't remember him, I'd probably think that I made him up entirely. I vowed to name my firstborn son after him, both the first and middle name, but my oldest sister got pregnant when I was 18, and she coincidentally named her kid that instead. Which is fine, because it turns out that my husband and I can't have kids together anyways. My husband was my first boyfriend. I didn't have a crush on him, but he had a huge crush on me. Shortly after we met, I got so drunk, he was 21 and I was 19, that I probably gave myself alcohol poisoning. We mutually lost our virginities, and then I spent the rest of the night throwing up in the toilet. Eventually, I passed out, and when I woke up, still on the bathroom floor, he was laying there under a blanket with me. Not the best start, I didn't think so, but I also thought, frick, he actually cares about me. I can't just ditch him. I can't remember if I had planned to or not because I was going through a pretty impulsive phase and made a lot of poor decisions on the fly. There's a lot more to the story which is fricked up but cute. Even though it doesn't sound like a healthy relationship, it was and it is. All of my wife's friends are jealous when I don't reciprocate their husband's complaints. Nope, mine is the best. He's extremely loyal to only me, and I'd still be cool with another lady friend. And in the span of 13 years, I can count the number of times he's left the toilet seat up. He still opens all of my doors, and all of this from a sloppy night of underage drinking. Not only is it rare to find someone you stay with from high school, but I would imagine made even more rare when your first date involved super drunk intercourse and vomiting. You've beaten the odds. Congrats. Story 8. Our friendship / my crush ended badly. Epic high school drama, because when I summoned up the balls to say I liked her, she told me she wasn't into girls. Turns out she was lying, but hey, what do you expect from a Southern Baptist sexton's daughter? So I, being a wise and mature 15-year-old, slept with her best friend. Got to the point where we would literally run away from each other whenever we chanced to meet in public. After 3 years of not speaking, during which I was with the best friend who turned out to be emotionally abusive, I bumped back into my crush. She'd broken her foot and was in a cast, so she couldn't run away. Started talking, she found out what a shell of myself I'd become and helped build me back up. I broke up with my ex, and my high school crush moved in. It's been 16 years together, and I'm still lucky as heck to wake up next to her every morning. This is lovely. Reminds me of my fiancé and I. We first met in middle school. So much weird drama. Glad we went to different colleges and changed a lot before dating. As she puts it, though, we must really love each other if we can remember the other's 13-year-old self and not run for the hills. Story 9. We got married. 4 years later, we divorced. 2 months after the divorce, he married my high school best friend, who was still my best friend at the time. About 4 months after the divorce, they had a child together. About 4 months after the divorce, they had a child together. Oh, sorry, OP. Funny, because my longest high school relationship, we were engaged to be married after almost 4 years. She left me for one of my best friends at the time, and they are still together. Honestly, even when we broke up and I knew they liked each other, I was happy for them. I think we both knew we weren't meant to be. Story 10. I won't be 30 for a few more months, but the story isn't going to change. He died in a car accident. Same, I'll be turning 30 next year. First girlfriend died when a drunk dude T-boned her. Story 11. I had a huge crush on her, but never did anything about it. She always had a boyfriend. We graduated from high school and remained friends. She invited me to her wedding in 1994, which I attended with my first wife. We lost touch for over 10 years and reconnected on Facebook in 2009. We got married in 2012. Story 12. First boyfriend and high school sweetheart. Married him and he's snoring beside me. 2 kids, 22 years together. We both got fat and ugly together. I love the idiot. Stories like this always make me wonder what could have been. After I graduated from high school, I moved to a different state for college and didn't keep in touch with anyone, even on social media. Sometimes I do miss them and want to see them, but never actually pick up the phone. I try never to worry about the people and connections I've missed, because if I hadn't missed them, I probably would have missed others that I made instead. You're always going to miss out on something. Focus on the things you haven't missed. Story 13. She's sitting beside me. We've been married 30 years and have 3 grown daughters. I am proof that the shy, awkward guy in the back row can get the class sweetheart. She still hasn't figured out that she's out of my league. It would be even better if she thinks you're out of her league, too. Story 14. I really have no idea. He was my biggest crush in high school, and I haven't looked him up in, I want to say, 8 years. He had pics with a child whom I'm assuming wasn't his, since she was a bit older, and I never heard that he got anyone pregnant when we were in high school. He looked the same. I guess I could look him up now, but it's not a burning desire to do so. OP delivers. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 15. All my secret gay crushes from evangelical Christian high school became super Christian. Disappointing to say the least. Most underrated comment in the whole thread. Story 16. He joined the Air Force, got married, had a kid, got out of the Air Force, worked in a job he tolerated for like a decade, taught himself programming, and now he works in SF as a programmer. I'm also the girl he married. Downright funny last detail. Story 17. She's a teacher and married to a guy who markets expensive machines to hospitals. They have a baby that they named after a character from an Ayn Rand novel. Huh. I don't like that at all. I don't want to be a judgmental jerk, but, nope, that just leaves a weird taste in my mouth. Honestly, I hope you weren't her type. Story 18. I had a huge crush on high school. She knew but wasn't having it. A couple years later, she called me up and came over for a booty call. Lamest frick ever. It really kind of sucks because she was the most reliable girl in my spank bank. Who gets a crush for a literal high school? Story 19. We are friends on Facebook. Has a long-term boyfriend but unmarried. I have been looking for a job for a while. Seems to be doing okay. We like each other's posts once in a while. Not much else to report. I wish her well. Story 20. Let's see. I have no idea what happened to my boyfriends from high school. One of my crushes turned out to be gay. He tracked me down on Facebook recently, and he's changed a lot from the very religious, adorable, smart guy that I knew as a freshman in high school. He's very cool and really amazing. The other crush died in a motocross accident about a decade ago. I'm sorry to hear about the motorcycle accident. Story 21. 30-year-old guy from DC here, middle school girlfriend, still lives nearby. She has a young son, a happy marriage, and is a small business owner. Things look great for her, and I couldn't be happier because she's a kind person. We see each other at friends' weddings and big life events like that. High school girlfriend studied criminal justice in college. She deleted Facebook during college because she wanted to try for the CIA and knew it was better to not have a trail of stupid stuff out there. I've seen her very sporadically since then. Hopefully she's a spook somewhere really cool, and the times I've seen her have been when she's back in town from some adventure. It's good that a lot of these stories seem to be pretty darn well-adjusted people going, I don't know, they seem happy and that's good. I was worried this was going to be a lot of vindictive dongs. Story 22. High school girlfriend got fat and is now divorced. She messaged me on Facebook after I got divorced back in 2012. We graduated high school in 2005 and told me how much of a mistake she made when she dumped me during our junior year. She was still married when she sent me that message. As for my high school crush, she's currently a teacher, happily married with a beautiful baby girl. Oh, and me? I've been married for a year and a half, and we have the sweetest little 2-month-old baby boy. Story 23. Boyfriend. He still gets in touch occasionally, usually asks for intercourse. Still won't come out of the closet, though, and insist that he's straight, but I like to be fricked by men. Girlfriend? All I know is that she got into Cambridge University. Secret crush, she came out as a lesbian, and the last I heard, a number of years ago, she was engaged to a woman. That guy is a person in more denial than those people who think the earth is flat. Story 24. Both my high school girlfriend and secret crush are pretty much the same person today as they were 15 years ago. Never have changed much in looks or personality. Story 25. Prettiest girl in my high school was also a cheerleader. She was touted as a shining example because she signed some contract for no intercourse before marriage. Went and got an abortion in secret. Having to live the double life coupled with a decision she couldn't tell anyone about, she obliterated her life with M. Not sure if you'd call it self-termination or a drug overdose. Well, never mind. I guess we're starting finding the less happy stories. They were bound to happen, and I feel really bad for that woman. No one should have to feel guilt like that over making a perfectly reasonable choice for her own body. Story 26. She married in her early 20s, 2 kids, and now divorced. She's not even 30 yet. She lives in the same town. I happily married my late 20s, 1 kid, and moved away for my career. We chat on Facebook once in a while, and sometimes I see her when I'm visiting friends in our old town. No mixing business with pleasure, but I often wonder if I would ever have moved had I tried to build a life with her. Story 27. About 20 years after I last saw her, she was in pictures a mutual friend posted online. Her looks have held. She apparently likes to dress like a go-go dancer and may be in a relationship. I'm glad for her and have no interest in intertwining her life with mine again. Story 28. Had a crush on a girl in high school that I never had the courage to pursue. Turns out it was mutual. More than 40 years later, she found me online and we struck up a friendship. It quickly became an online romance that nearly ruined my marriage until it ended. It was very hard for me because as much as I love my wife, I felt and still feel that there is such a thing as one true love in life. I may have missed it. Something to think about for those of you who are still kids and trying to work up the courage to try to start a romance with your crush. I'll say, I absolutely do not believe in one true love, but I still sympathize with this person. It could be that they have underlying problems in their marriage that led to that, or other things going on in their life. Story 29. I'm 48 and sat across the room, desks formed a circle, in high school facing an attractive, tall, leggy brunette. Wasn't so much a crush, but more of, wow, she's friggin' beautiful. She was Cindy Crawford. Story 30. Married the high school girlfriend, had a kid, and then got divorced. Years later, reconnected with the high school crush and went on a date. She was still everything I remembered. Problem was, I wasn't 16 anymore. I grew up and changed. Still friends, and I think she was kinda peed I wasn't interested, but oh well. Story 31. My first boyfriend used to beat the crap out of me all the time. I didn't know it was wrong because I grew up in a very crappy, abusive household. People in my family would treat me the same. So years later, I found out he is now a pastor at a Baptist church with 4 children, 2 girls of his own. I always wonder if he chose this life out of guilt for what he did to me. I hope he is happy and healthy with his wife and children. OP, you have so much of a right to be spiteful and angry toward this person, and yet you come here being so danged well-adjusted and nice like that? Well, I hope you are happy and healthy because you seem like a great person. I really mean that. Story 32. I ended up marrying her. We went to a pretty small high school, so our circle of friends always overlapped. To me, she was always drop-dead gorgeous, and I never understood why her boyfriends treated her like crap. I actually dated her best friend when I was in high school/college. Well, we both graduated college, separated from our respective terrible exes, and I joined the army, and when I came home from Iraq, I got trashed and called every girlfriend on my phone repeatedly. She was the only one who answered, and I spilled my guts. All those years we were crushing on each other and we just never connected the dots. Story 33. He grew up to be a good person, which isn't surprising because he was a good kid. He became more handsome as an adult, and I was genuinely pleased for him when we saw each other last, maybe 25 years ago at a party. Later, he experienced a terrible loss when his son was killed in an accident. It's probably been 10 years since that, and wherever he is now, I hope he's okay. Story 34. At this exact moment, he's out to breakfast with some guys while I do the morning grind with our 2-year-old twins. Good for him, he deserves it. Twins are a lot of responsibility. Story 35. She had a massive breakdown during college, which ultimately led to her being diagnosed with schizophrenia and being sectioned. Story 36. She's an accomplished pharmacist and kicking butt at life. She's hot as heck and we barely ever talk. I never made a move on her and she yelled at me for it 2 years after high school. Missed the frickin' boat on that one. I'm glad you're so positive about her and hey, keep up the hope. I didn't meet my partner until my mid-30s and I'm so happy to have found her. I realized I didn't miss any boats. I just hadn't found the right one. Story 37. I'm only 28, but we fled our hometown after graduation and road tripped around America, decided we liked this one city, but we were in Santa Fe and out of money. So we worked in a desert diner for 9 months to save up money to move to that other city. Finished college a little while ago and we just celebrated our 3rd wedding anniversary. Story 38. He married his high school sweetheart and started dealing with multiple health issues that eventually led to him being disabled. So he stays at home with their kids and she works full-time. He has a tendency to air his dirty laundry on social media, so I'm pretty glad to have dodged that bullet. Story 39. She went to a fancy college her parents had gone to while I went to state college. She married someone from said college and had family money and is now producing the next generation of that college's legacy. I'm happily married to the woman of my dreams and have 2 awesome little dudes and have an amazing life that I wouldn't trade for anything. There's so many positive, happy people in this thread and it makes me happy. Folks, I hope you're taking notes on this video because there are some positive as heck messages here. Story 40. She posts Instagrams with her boyfriend of 4 years, now 24/7, 365 days a year. I mean, that's cool and all that she's happy, but it screams stage 5 clinger. Story 41. I saw him at a gas station in a city 300 miles away from our high school. He got ugly. I don't use social media, so I don't know what became of his life. Story 42. She and I both graduated from high school in the top 10% and ended up going to the same community college for a couple of years. I wound up getting an internship that got parlayed into a full-time position, and she wound up going to nursing school after finishing her prerequisites. Last I heard, she's an RN at a major hospital and happily engaged to somebody equally as pretty/successful/presumably nice. Story 43. We both talked about having awesome careers, traveling the world, moving away from our little town, etc. I've been very fortunate to get to do all of those things. She got married at 20, has a few kids, has never traveled anywhere, and still works just down the road from her childhood home. I can't help but wonder if she has any regrets. I imagine she probably does, but hopefully she's at least happy. I used to think I wanted to be doing voice work in Los Angeles or doing stand-up in New York. I ended up back in my home state of Minnesota living a simpler but overall much happier life. Story 44. High school boyfriend got a master's in electrical engineering, recently found out he's adopted 2 kids from Africa with his wife. I'm happy for him. Story 45. Our mutual friends said he gained like 300 more pounds and has a Facebook default pic of a cartoon sea monster. So I'm guessing he's doing great in life. Story 46. Dated my high school sweetheart for 2.5 years. He's married with a kid. He seems really happy from what I can tell on Facebook. We haven't spoken in 5+ years, but not because of any animosity. We're just different people with different lives. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.